Thank you. Yeah, I'm Marty Nessman. I'm the Water Supply Section Manager with the Department of Natural Resources in Wisconsin. We regulate wells and pumps, and we license well drillers and pump installers. One thing you might not know about Wisconsin, we've had a pure drinking water law since 1935, and that regulated well drilling and pump installing as well, included licensing of well drillers. The first well code was put out in 1936, and from 1936 to 1967, well drilling was regulated through the Department of Health, and in 1967 that was sent to the DNR, and we've been regulating it ever since. So today I am talking about using ARPA funding to improve drinking water quality in Wisconsin. ARPA is, of course, the American Rescue Plan Act. A lot of money was given to states to improve infrastructure. And we were lucky enough to get $10 million at first for a well compensation and well filling and sealing grant program. Why ARPA funds? Well, the state of Wisconsin has had a well compensation program since 1983. But the state program was underused. We only issued about 5 grants per year for replacing wells or treating wells that had contamination. We would give out about 50 grants a year for well filling and sealing to help get rid of wells that are no longer used. But the governor of Wisconsin, Tony Evers, was very interested in providing clean drinking water to everyone. We had a year of clean drinking water in 2021, I believe. And we feel that private wells are infrastructure. So using funding to help with infrastructure made sense because in Wisconsin we have over 800,000 wells, at least in our database. I think it's impossible for any state to know exactly how many wells are in their boundary because that changes day to day. People fill and seal wells, people hook up to municipal water. But we estimate between 800 and 900,000 wells. Some of them are used daily, some of them are used seasonally, some of them are used for irrigation. So all the different types of wells, it can make it a challenge to quantify. In the state well compensation program in 1983, they created this, and the income limits haven't been changed very much since 1983. Family income had to be below $65,000, and for every dollar above $45,000 that a family earned, the award was reduced by 30 cents. So it's a pretty low bar to clear to get a grant. It did pay for 75% of the costs up to $12,000. So $12,000 was the maximum amount you could get. And you always had to pay a deductible of $250. It also only covered bacteria if it was tied to livestock waste. Nitrate had to exceed 40 milligrams per liter, and the well had to serve livestock at least 100 days a year. So for bacteria and nitrate, you had a really low bar or high bar to get a grant. And then public wells were typically not eligible unless they also served a private residence. So when we were asked in June of 2022 if we would like $10 million to do a different program, we said yes, we'd love to, because we had a potential pool of applicants in Wisconsin. Approximately 3% of wells are E. coli positive each year, and 10% of wells exceed 10 milligrams per liter of nitrate. So if we could pull these bacteria and nitrate impacted wells into the program, make them eligible without having to tie it to livestock or have it be above 40, we knew we could help a lot of people. We knew if we raised the income eligibility, we could help even more people. So we did raise the income limit to $100,000 of income per year and provided up to $16,000 per grant. But we also provided for additional funding. Through our state statutory program, we could provide extra grants through our emergency repair funds to help people with really, really low incomes pay for their entire new well. So we came up with a schedule for how much income did someone make versus how much did the well cost, a percentage of their income. If it was a certain percentage of their income, we'd pay more. We'd pay up to 100%. So we, at first, thought, it's going to be a little challenging to get $10 million out. And we had only until the end of 2026 to do it. So from basically January of 2023 to December 2026, we had to get this $10 million out. We also decided no deductible. Grant eligibility, obviously contaminated private wells, contaminated non-community wells. So we did add non-community wells to it, these small wells, restaurants, bars in rural areas that served populations, and filling and sealing unused wells as well. For bacteria, nitrate, and arsenic, and I'll talk about arsenic a little bit in a second, the eligibility is tied to drinking water standards. In the statutory program, like I mentioned, the nitrate level was higher. Arsenic had to be above the natural background of the area the well is in, which how do you determine that? You don't really know how to determine that. But basically, we had established that in Wisconsin, anything above 50 micrograms per liter arsenic was above naturally occurring background levels in the past. So in the ARPA program, we were going to cover arsenic wells just if they met or exceeded the standards. Of course, our eligible costs stayed the same: replacing, reconstructing a well, installing treatment, or filling and sealing a well. In our statutory program, we're required to establish that, we're required to only approve treatment if replacing or reconstructing a well will not work at all. Wherever we know that that's not going to fix it, or, as a second grant after we've already replaced the well and showed that it didn't work. In this program, we're kind of following that as well, but we have followed that as well. We prefer to replace or reconstruct the well and not install treatment, but we have been developing the experience to know where we can't just replace a well where treatment is a good idea or the only option. So it's a little bit, we're a little less finicky on treatment. As I mentioned, all the grants so in the initial phase of this, all the grants had to be awarded by the end of 2024. We had to allocate the ARPA funds. And then all grants had to be paid by the end of 2026. And sorry about this slide, it should say October 22 to December 2024. Before I talk about the results, when you're establishing a program like this, we didn't start from nothing. We had our existing program. We just made adjustments to it to make it more inclusive, get the money out. We also set aside money to hire 2 project positions for 2 years and to hire 2 limited term employees to help do the work. Because if we were going to ask our current employees, staff, to do extra work like this, we knew we were going to have to throw a bunch of stuff aside and say we're not doing anything else. So it's very important to hire people, hire good people, set this money aside to do that. It really made a difference. And I'll talk a little bit about how we advertise the program as well. We did go on radio. We promoted it through different radio programs, mostly free. We didn't take out any ads. The biggest response we got was actually, we put together a flyer that just said, hey, we have this program. You can get money to replace your well if it's contaminated. And we sent it to all the clerks of every county to post on election day in the spring of 2023. And that hit our target audience. Most of the people applying for these grants are elderly on fixed incomes, who, as well as, they know they have an issue, but they haven't been able to do anything about it. And we really did reach them very quickly through that. We posted things on our website. We sent out gov deliveries, sent out emails, but I think that was our biggest selling point. We also had our public water staff post the flyer at establishments that they were inspecting. So when they would do their yearly inspection, they'd say, hey, do you mind if I throw this flyer up on your bulletin board? Most of the bars and restaurants in Wisconsin have a bulletin board next to the door. When they were allowed to, they put that up there. So that helped as well. And we had some legislators who are interested in changing the statutory program who were promoting it as well. So that helped also. So from October 22 to December 2025, we had 803 applicants, and we awarded 684 grants for replacing or filling and sealing a well or adding treatment. Included in that is 92 non-community well grants. So we had really good response. We got a lot of grants out. The awards were for 384 well replacements, 104 treatment systems, 3 municipal hookups, and we filled and sealed 182 unused wells. So anything where you can affect the lives of that many people, obviously, it is very rewarding. It shows that there's a need out there, a big need. And we were able to allocate all of our money by the end of December 2024. But actually we stopped accepting applications in May of 2024. So there was a bit of a gap there. And we had a waiting list we could have had a very long waiting list. We kind of kept it down to about 20 applicants. When payment claims would come in, they didn't meet the estimate, then more money was available. So we were able to kind of keep things going and keep helping people. And then, so $9.3 million was awarded through the end of December 2024, not 2025, and $7.7 million was actually paid out in that 2-year period, even though we had another 2 years to get all the money paid. Here's what was covered. Most of the contamination was nitrate, that's the blue in here. We also had some arsenic, 35 wells, 37 E. coli contaminated wells, 16 manganese, I believe, and 22 were other. I should also mention PFAs or PFAS, we call them. We had 29 wells replaced for that. I didn't include that as our potential pool because that's a developing thing. We're sampling more and more for PFAS, but there was a particular county in Wisconsin, Oneida County, where we found extremely high levels of PFAS in some private wells. And so most of those 29 replacement wells were for that area. So before I talk about Cycle B, I'm also going to mention that the quickness that we got this money out had the governor thinking, well, we thought the rules were we had to get our grants out and then pay them out over the next 2 years. Get our grants out in 2 years, pay it out in over 2 years. But there is a bit of a loophole in ARPA where the governor accepts the money, it goes to our department administration. If the department administration gives you a contract to distribute some money, that's considered it allocated. So it's allocated for the purpose of well grants. So there were other programs throughout the state that didn't use all their ARPA funds. And so at the end of the year, end of 2024, the governor's office said, well, how many more people can you help with this program? We said, well, I don't know. What are you thinking? How much money do you think we could get? And they said, well, could you do another 5 million? And so we said, yeah, I think we can. Yeah, we think we can. And, but we'll need to hire some more people because all the people we hired are done because we thought we were done at the end of 2024 with getting all this out. So they allowed us to hire some project people and LTs and gave us another $5 million in awards using the same criteria. We did adjust our criteria a little bit. We had requirements for getting 2 samples from the well to confirm contamination. We kind of softened that for some things like PFAS. We weren't getting 2 samples for PFAS. That's cost prohibitive. So we had a tighter deadline though, so that $5 million has to be spent in the next 2 years. We think we can do it, but we're only going to accept applications through the end of August. We're going to have to get our awards out by the end of November, and construction of new wells will have to be completed by the end of July of 2026. So they can request payment by the end of August, and all the payments have to be made by the end of 2026, right? So things are going to be a little fluid, but I'm happy to report that we have a lot of applications in already. This data is a little old. I'll give you the updated numbers. Oops. Okay, as of April, we had 104 applications received, including 10 non-community wells and 1.8 in estimated awards. In the last month, now our numbers are up to 140 applications, including, I don't have the non-community application numbers, but we've issued 55 awards already, and our estimated awards between what's being reviewed, what we've got in-house, is close to 2.4 million. So we're almost halfway there already. So still a high demand. The word's still out there. We also included some of the grants for some of the people who wanted to apply, but we ran out of money and then started again. So in that period between roughly May to December of 2024, we're reimbursing them for the work that they did if they show that they had a contaminated well. So we have a little flexibility in how we do this because it's a federal program and we kind of made our own rules in a way. We're still being audited, of course, but things have gone really well, and it's only because we're fortunate that we haven't had a natural disaster or some other thing going on that, allowed us to pick this money up and use it in this way. So I'm really appreciative of that, and we've been very fortunate. So I may be a little short, but we have time for questions.
Good, because there's 14 questions.
Awesome.
So if you want to,
Yeah.
He had his contact information up there.
Sure.
Yeah, he switched the slides. So
Okay.
go ahead and.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go.
So was there ever a situation where it's more plausible to have the homeowner connect into public water instead of repairing or new construction? Is that covered or is that on the homeowner? So yes, you can use the funding to connect to a public water system. And it's definitely covered. Yep. Do you know the source of the high PFAS? The source in Oneida County that I talked about is land spreading of municipal, industrial, and septic waste, we think. We don't have, you asked that question, yes.
I didn't expect you
Yes.
to name a source, just.
No,
curious
yeah.
if you know,
That's the source, municipal land spreading on fields next to the homes over decades. I mean, this wasn't overnight, this was decades. Is arsenic commonly a pollutant in Wisconsin? My state suggests treatment for it because a new well typically won't solve the issue. So arsenic is fairly widespread in Wisconsin. There are some hot spots in eastern Wisconsin. We actually have some special well casing depth requirements in a couple of counties in eastern Wisconsin because we know there's a sulfide cement horizon in the shallower bedrock aquifer, and we have requirements that they go deeper, case and grout to a certain depth, drill with drilling mud. The arsenic typically oxidizes from that sulfide cement horizon when you have air mixing, so we don't allow air drilling in that area either. But it can be found in any county in Wisconsin. It's been found in sand and gravel aquifers, bedrock aquifers. So it really depends on where in the state you are. We have a very heterogeneous geology in Wisconsin. So it really is a case-by-case basis. And we do, so I should have mentioned this as well. So one of the project people we hired for the ARPA well comp was a hydrogeologist to do a review of every application, make sure what was proposed made sense, was going to do the job. And we're pretty successful. Of course, you can't guarantee in every situation that the contamination is going to go away. How much does testing for PFAS typically cost? So in Wisconsin, in the wells that are certified, it can be between $300 and $600, something in that area, for one sample.
Did you guys pay for that?
So the question is, do we pay for that? Yes. For a well grant, we do pay for any sampling that was done. And in the case of Oneida County, we sampled most of the wells there because we found that hot spot. We knew it was a problem, or we had a suspicion it could be a larger problem, and we kept testing and kept finding more and more. So what types of treatment options for nitrate or arsenic were available through the grant? That kind of varied. Most of them were some form of reverse osmosis. I think most of them were reverse osmosis for our nitrate and arsenic, although sometimes a combination of iron treatment with some kind of oxidation was used for arsenic as well. Next question, what was the process for choosing contractors for services? So the process was the well owner would get bids from their regional contractor, submit the bids, we'd look the bids over, make sure that what was proposed would do what it was supposed to do. Sometimes we'd have to go back and ask them to get a bid for a deeper well than what was proposed or something else. So we didn't have like a direct contract with a contractor to do it. Did you face any obstacles with state allocation requests to support the use of ARPA funds for private well improvements? So because it was federal funding that came through the governor's office and our Division of Administration, we didn't really face many obstacles with that. The state statutory program, Obviously, the obstacles are the requirements that are currently in place. But after starting this whole process with ARPA, well, even before that, people were interested in making changes to that statute. That has continued, and this program gave us a lot of data to provide the lawmakers to show the need, show what can work, show how much money is really needed for that. Have you had or anticipate issues with having enough well contractors to accomplish the projects in the timelines? Yes, we do anticipate some issues. Even before this program, there was a wait. Some people were waiting more than 6 months to get a well replaced or a new well put in Wisconsin. So our contractors are pretty stressed. More people are leaving the business than going into it. I'm sure you've all dealt with that. We've worked closely with our Water Well Association. We did promote this to the well drillers and pump installers. Hey, if you have somebody you know they're low income, they need a new well, use this program. It was a boost for them in a way. I mean, all this money was going straight to the well drillers and well contractors, essentially. It wasn't necessarily exactly what they were hoping for as far as increasing their workload, but they've been very good to work with us as it went on. There may be a few grants at the end that they just didn't get the work done. We're not going to get the money out. I don't think that can be helped. How did you prioritize applicants? Was it on a first come, first served basis or income levels, contaminant levels? It was first come, first served. Because it's limited funds, we had a limited timeline. We tried to make sure that if someone got their application in, we'd get it turned around when it came, at a certain time after it came in, the next one didn't go to the head of line. At first, we did prioritize some of those transient non-community wells because that was the highest impact. But after we got tight on the money, we had to change that. Why was nitrate set at 40 milligrams per liter for eligibility? So in 1983, when they wrote that well comp law, I think they were afraid that nitrate would be too big of an issue for them to cover at 10 milligrams per liter. So I think that was just done to limit the number of applications coming in back then. And it got even worse as time went on. So, okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. You probably answered.